Across the globe, a pill was being hailed by doctors as a new wonder drug. It sold in record numbers, and the creators behind it were driven by commercial greed and ignorance. And it didn't take long before an epidemic of horrid birth defects took the world by storm. The triumph, however, would emerge decades later as the same drug that crippled thousands is also found to have the same ability to cure cancer. This is the story of thalidomide. Our story begins in Germany post-World War II. A lack of German pharmaceutical companies prompted Hermann Wirth Sr. to start a new drug company called Chemie Grünenthal. Out of the many newly hired employees at Chemie Grünenthal, one of them was Nazi doctor Heinrich Muchter. In the winter of 1954, under the authority of Dr. Heinrich Muchter, his team managed to create a drug called thalidomide. Soon after, Muchter and his team found out that the drug would make animals sleepy and relaxed. During testing, it was found that it was impossible to reach a level for deadly overdose, only causing animals to go into a deep sleep, as opposed to other sleeping pills on the market that would cause death if taken in an excessive amount. Thalidomide was a perfect example of the newly fashionable tranquilizers that were on sale across the globe. Testing on thalidomide was brief and rushed because Grünenthal wanted to get the drug out on sale as soon as possible. Under names Contergan and Contergan Forte, thalidomide went on the German market on October 1, 1957. Ads about Contergan emphasized its absolute non-toxicity and safeness, words never heard before when describing a sedative. With marketing focusing on thalidomide acting as a mild sleeping pill, it was also later advertised as a flu treatment, a cure for anxiety, gastritis, and tension, and most importantly, as a morning sickness pill for pregnant mothers. Over 50 ads were placed in medical journals, over 200,000 letters were sent out to doctors, and 50,000 printed materials were commissioned by Grünenthal. It was only a matter of time before thalidomide became Germany's best-selling drug. As a result of thalidomide's success in Germany, companies such as Distillers in Great Britain and Richardson Merrill in Canada reached out to Grünenthal to market the drug in their respective countries. Thalidomide began selling on the British market in 1958 under the name Distaval. Thalidomide was also combined with other drugs to treat asthma, hypertension, and migraines, under such names as Asmavol, Tenzaval, and Valgrain, respectively. Under names Kevadon and Talamol, thalidomide was also available in both Australia and Canada, first as samples in 1959 and authorized for public use in 1961. Overall, 14 different pharmaceutical companies were making thalidomide in 46 different countries under at least 37 different trade names. Thalidomide was now the best-selling drug, selling in unprecedented numbers, and in some cases, selling better than aspirin. Part of the reason why thalidomide was selling so well was because of advertisements continuing to boast about the safety of the drug, especially in pregnant women. However, there was no proof whatsoever to back up these claims. Thalidomide was rushed to the markets by Grünenthal, and other companies followed suit. As thalidomide sales continued to soar, an underlying epidemic was growing. First noticed by pediatricians such as Dr. Lenz and Dr. McBride, and then by many others when their research went public. A growing number of babies born with the same, once rare condition, phocomelia.
This frequently produced the severe congenital defects consisting of a condition called phocomelia. And this is characterized by the lack of development of the hands and the feet of persons whose mother had taken thalidomide.
Dr. Robert Kyle is a hematologist at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. He recalls the time when the dangerous side effects of thalidomide first became public.
Well, the first question in my mind is to be absolutely certain to prevent pregnancy in a person who was on thalidomide.
To the parents of these children, reactions were mixed. Peter Hashmal recalls the time when he first saw his deformed daughter, Linda.
They brought Linda through. She has 2 flipper arms. She had a right arm which was done up rather like a watch spring. And one good leg, and she weighed just on 2 pounds.
Unfortunately, most thalidomide babies were put into homes for the disabled and crippled, others were put up for adoption, and very few remained with their true parents. In extreme cases, mothers were so distraught that they murdered their child. Curious about the recent surge of deformed babies, Dr. Lenz, a German pediatrician, set out across Germany to find that there were hundreds of other babies that were also deformed. Odd enough, the parents of every child had taken thalidomide. Finally, Lenz made the connection. Down in Australia, pediatrician Dr. William McBride had also noticed a link between deformed babies and the drug. Both McBride and Lenz called and wrote to Grunenthal reporting what they had found, but Grunenthal ignored both of them. Luckily, Lenz wasn't discouraged and went public with his findings. In response, Grunenthal withdrew the drug from German markets on November 27, 1961. Distillers took the product off of British and Australian markets on December 2, 1961, but the drug remained on Canadian markets for another 4 months. However, the damage had already been done. It is estimated that over 125,000 babies were affected by thalidomide. Most of them were stillborn. Around 24,000 babies were born worldwide. 6,000 were born in Germany, 2,000 in the UK, 3,000 in Spain, and 1,000 in Japan. The remaining 12,000 children were born in various countries in Africa, South America, and the Middle East. Fewer than 10,000 babies survived past the first year. Luckily, thalidomide never hit American shores, thanks to Dr. Frances Oldham Kelsey.
And it just so happens that my first application was for the drug thalidomide. And I got this because I was new and they thought I should have an easy one to start on.
When Kelsey first received the application for thalidomide, she was immediately suspicious.
Dr. Kelsey was an employee of the FDA, and she requested more toxicity data from the company, Grunenthal, before the FDA would act on that drug, before they would approve it.
We all felt the initial submission was inadequate to show safety.
Dr. Kelsey was put under tremendous pressure by both the pharmaceutical company and her superiors, but she continued to remain determined. Once Dr. Lenz's and McBride's reports came out, the application for thalidomide was withdrawn. Thanks to Dr. Kelsey's persistence, thalidomide was never approved for sale in the United States. Her actions also led to strict regulation policies in the U.S., reforming the FDA into the way it is today. The tragedy of thalidomide had swept across the world, and many thought that the drug would be erased from existence. However, in 1964, Dr. Jacob Shaskin treated a leprosy patient with thalidomide and his sores began to heal. News of his new discovery traveled quickly around the world, and many years later, in 1994, it was proven that thalidomide could treat symptoms of AIDS, HIV, and 126 other chronic conditions, including cancer. A conference was held to discuss the newly found capabilities of thalidomide. At the conference, thalidomide victims, now in their 30s, showed up as living proof of the horrible side effects of the drug. Long talk and discussion about the uses of thalidomide prompted the FDA to approve thalidomide on July 16, 1998. However, as a request for the thalidomide victims, thalidomide is only available to those as a last resort, not as a drug of choice. While on the drug, you must take 2 forms of contraception, and you are required to take a pregnancy test every month. Thalidomide is able to treat multiple myeloma, a cancer of the plasma cells in the bone marrow, which is a research specialty of Dr. Kyle. Thalidomide is the first new drug to offer such successful treatment of multiple myeloma in 3 decades. The story of this drug is unlike any other, and many of the impacts we can still see today. The tragedy of the hundreds of thousands of deformed babies certainly took its toll on the world, but luckily, we have learned from our mistakes and have used thalidomide in a triumph of medicine, using that same drug to cure cancer and other chronic conditions. Hopefully, there will be a day in which we can officially say that thalidomide has been abolished, but until then, we must protect the ones affected and learn from our past.